to a lot of disorder. So, of course, we condemn what has happened. We have always agitated and advocated for peaceful ways of resolving conflict. And as much as possible, law enforcement agencies must learn that however minor an incident may be, you need to be proactive and ensure that it doesn't get out of hand.
And when you say proactive, Mr. Sewanyana, what exactly do you mean? They should have come out earlier with these water cannons instead of waiting?
I think what is important is always to read the signs. What is important is to ensure that on an everyday basis there is dialogue and precautions are taken not to trigger situations that can lead to loss of lives and sometimes turmoil.
Let's look at society. Prime Minister Cameron recognized that there are gangs which they've ignored for a long time. We don't seem to have that phenomenon very active here, prayerfully yet. What do you read in the what somebody has called family breakdown? You can't cane your child, and civil society is advocating the same kind of thing here. Don't discipline your child because they also have rights. They can go to a shop and do alcohol when there's chaos.
I think it is important for us to stress the necessity at this stage of dealing with social deviance, as well as putting in place mechanisms and measures that can reduce wanton acts and misconduct on the part of the youth, as well as those who sometimes think that they are marginalized. As we all know, yes, it is true, there are organized criminal gangs in some of these societies which need to be dealt with a bit more decisively. And we have always urged for, measures that would include community involvement in the administration of justice to ensure that crimes are detected, social deviants are dealt with in a timely manner, and as much as possible, there is discipline in the conduct of affairs. We are aware of some of these deviants and gangs in some of these societies, which actually need to be dealt with. There is also the problem of drugs. I think it's important that government take a very serious view of this question of drugs and deal with it a bit more decisively.
Let's talk about the discipline enforcement for a child. Do you think it's a good thing to discipline children, cane them or spank them, or should we spare the rod and wait to see what happens to the children?
I think disciplining children in itself does not necessarily always mean caning or corporal punishment.
Oh.
What is important is
denying them food once in a while?
Good examples for them to know and to be directed how best they should behave, and of course to put in place control measures. For example, bars where children could find themselves drinking at awkward hours, those must be put out of control. Children must be, of course, disciplined decisively, meaning that, for example, there should not be soft approaches to disciplining children. For example, if a child has misbehaved, of course, we need to look for innovative ways of ensuring that he feels the cost of misconduct. So we should not be thinking necessarily about corporal punishment as the best. We have seen children who have been subjected to corporal punishment. They don't behave any better.
Really?
Yes.
Were you subjected to corporal punishment yourself as a child?
No, apparently I wasn't actually caned.
Well, you were in Emilliano College. There was caning in Emilliano.
No, we were never caned in Emilliano. We were not being caned in Emilliano during our time. Perhaps now, but not during our time. Right. But of course, what we are saying is that there must be innovative ways of disciplining children. And I think the bottom line is that they need to learn from, their superiors. People must be good examples. When there are no good examples, it's difficult for children to learn.
Mr. Sewanyana, let's get back home here. Police in London was a little bit reluctant to crack the whip, so to speak. What do you think?
Hear you.
Okay, I'm saying that police in London appeared a little bit reluctant to come down hard on the rioters at the start. Later, they moved on with a little bit more force. Let's talk about Uganda. The Ugandan police has been very, very fast, and they've been able to quell these riots. What should they do in future when people begin to create chaos? Should they do what Londoners did, step aside and wait for cities to burn?
I think in the part of London, what we see as sporadic acts, they were not organized demonstrations. There was no notice. I think the incident that triggered what happened also leaves a lot to be desired. So I think it may not be very easy to equate what is happening in London with what happens in Uganda.
All right,
I think each case must be looked at its own merit.
All right, Mr. Sewanyana.
Consider, for example, right here are basically people who are dissatisfied with situations, who often approach the police with a view of expressing their grievances and of course are denied. But here we are looking at lawlessness. In the case of London, we are looking at lawlessness.
Okay.
If you're expressing a grievance, there's no reason why you should loot and ban. So I think the two do not actually cannot be equated.
Okay, Mr. Sewanyana, please stay with us. I would like us to hear from Mr. Kayiima, who's with us here in the studio. Please do stay with us, Mr. Sewanyana. We'd like to get back to you to conclude as we conclude this debate. Mr. Kayiima, let's follow back on, and you're free to react to what Mr. Sewanyana has just said. But I'd like to ask you to expound for us what you mentioned as the value system breaking down. What do you mean?
Thank you very much. You asked him a question whether he was spanked.
Yes.
I was spanked. But I don't.
He's reluctant to say no. To say
maybe he was lucky that he was not.
It was very rare those days.
During our days, we went through that hell and we didn't like it. And our parents tell us if they had not whipped us the way they did,
you'd not be wearing pips most likely.
That's what my dad has told me, and somehow I feel.
You believe it?
Maybe not.
Oh, really?
Yes. I'm not an advocate of spanking, but the issue is really not in the stick.
You prefer to spare the rod. So that's what happens to the child.
Let me explain. Today, what do we see? The reality is parents spend almost no time with their families. Man and wife, everybody is out looking for money. They come home without that money. Each is angry with each other, and there is no time for the children. We get worked up by the kind of work we do. So it's not a question of spanking. Do you even understand? Do you even appreciate? Now, by our time, I had supper and lunch with my parents for the first 10 years of my life. Isn't that beautiful? Today, chaps are taken to boarding schools when they are 4. That's unfortunate. The teachers who are handling them,
it's an aberration, I think,
are trained, but the children will feel you've thrown us there because you don't like us. The teachers have their own issues they are handling. We, the police, have our own issues. You, the journalists, have your own issues, and they get. I mean, who are the examples that they're going to learn from? So the issues, I think, are bigger than just spanking. Though, I agree, when you challenge your authority, you must be handled firmly but fairly.
What's family?
Family.
But you don't like children with spank. You don't want children to be, but you carry batons as policemen. You want to beat adults. Wait until they
I have children and I beat them up.
Go on.
If they challenge authority, I will firmly handle that. Within the context, I won't burn their hands.
Right.
I will not beat them when I'm angry, when I'm dispensing my anger. But I would want them to know the reason behind either the spanking or the other punishment. I can give them but am I there to supervise that? Who is it that is in our families taking care of our children? Who?
Television.
We all know. Television. Our nice housemaids are taking care of our children. And at the end of the day, we have them on the streets. We won't like it. I read an 11-year-old who was charged in London with stealing dustbin.
Right.
What is this? maybe in a frenzy, maybe doesn't even know what he's doing. In this country, an 11-year would not be charged because he's young.
They are protected.
Yes,
they
are young. They are not criminally responsible. But we could see this in this country if we don't address the pertinent issues concerning us. What is this? How many mothers take maternity leave? How many fathers? We are not even granted paternity leave. I look forward to that.
A place I worked before gave us paternity leave.
Oh,
I laughed the first time I read it in my document.
I would love to take that. I would love to bathe my children. I would love to laugh with them, to beat them, and then they see the good side of me. And you're building, your family building this. And it does not matter what you say to the children, but what you do. They watch. Watch them. They act out. And we don't seem to see this. Everybody in this country, in this world, has a duty to do. Normally, we neglect our duties and we look at the other house. In Parliament, we have a bill, an anti-narcotics and drugs bill. Since 2005, it's gathering dust there. We shout about it as the police, and the drugs are killing this country. And members of Parliament, either they are too busy with other bills and they are not addressing this. At the end of the day, the good laws they will have made will be spoiled by these, because the minds are already destroyed. Everybody will ask, but where was the police?
I know one musician is very much celebrated. He's very much celebrated, but his car, one of the vehicles that he drives, has the picture of a narcotic drug. I don't even know. I don't think he painted it there. The revenue authority must have given it to him.
It's unfortunate. All these are the issues that we look at. And when you're a celebrity, do you know how many people look up to you? Do you know how many people would want to copy what you do without knowing the implications? And once you're addicted there, it's not as easy to come back.
Right.
And when it spills, the theater, when the theater comes, the ugly theater, politicians will have a field day.
Politicians will come and point fingers at you.
And they'll have a field day. And they'll promise a better life to those that would look for a better life, of course. And when you are angry, when you are emotionally charged, you're likely to swing allegiance. And in this case, who is the enemy? The police. But the police is there to enforce the law. So I think Ugandans should be able to look beyond really what happens in the streets to addressing the pertinent issues that touch everybody in this country. Yes.
Let's talk about police management. Compare what happened in London. Say they appear to be reluctant, and Uganda. Should we have sent them some of our boys to show them what to do? What are canons on day one?
No.
With pains.
I think the situations are different, much different. When you look at the situations in London, they are different. The people involved in the crime are young people, major young people. In this country, you find the household names getting involved in this chaos when they actually know that they will even escape the law. They know it. And who get arrested? Many times the young boys whose families don't even have a lawyer, and they go and suffer the consequences of their crimes. When the big fish who used them to attain their political motives have gained miles.
Right.
And after somebody has lost a life, somebody has lost a limb, they will come to celebrate that. Politically gain, but morally there will be question
and lay wreaths on the graves. Let's talk about gangs. David Cameron, British Prime Minister, said they have gangs there. Do we have gangs in this town, in this country? Crime gangs.
Well, we are likely to have them. If we don't question every motive of everybody in this country, which we will actually do, in doing our work, we detect and prevent crime.
Okay.
Politicians have learned this, and you saw it during, before, during, and after elections, where every politician had gangs behind them.
Right.
Where did they go? We may think that they went back to work. Maybe they're hibernating.
All right.
And when we lift a finger, everybody will come up in arms. Police is harassing us because we are this color, because we are this color.
Okay.
That would kill this country if we are not serious.
Let's hear from you, listeners. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, looking at London, the recent riots there. Our numbers you can call in now: 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you calling from. Spectrum, hello. Hello.
Hello.
Your name, sir?
I was shocked by Mr. Sewanyana when he said that we should watch our kids from drinking at wrong hours. When are kids supposed to be drinking? I think that was very, very sad.
Maybe it's in the morning.
No, you're talking about alcohol. That was very sad for a person of that caliber. Secondly, I was really happy, or rather shocked or impressed, a mixed bag. When the British were saying, where are the parents? What are the parents doing over this? These are people who allow their children to start renting houses by 16, and they're paid for. A person at 16, these kids were 16, they were not accountable to their parents. They were accountable to the state. So the state was the parent. So I think they have got a dose of what they try to preach to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Spectrum, hello.
Hello, this is Felix in Ntebe.
Yes, Felix.
My take is that I have two quick issues to make. One, I think one of the groups that have made these situations worse are the human rights groups and some of these activist groups, because it all takes back to the fact that they have led to breakdown of families, homes, like taking parents to spend their children, encouraging too much, what I usually call irresponsible rights. It's like people are allowed to just behave the way they want, just like you see in Walk to Us. People are saying peaceful protesters, they are being without art, they are being what? These are people who are rooters, are not peaceful protesters.
All right.
So when you allow people to have too many rights and you allow them too much freedom, then this is at the end of the day what you got.
Okay.
What you get. So I think some of these groups need to check their practices. This is what has been promoted in the West, and that's why you see too much chaos, as you can see in London now. And then maybe the other point to make is that the police, especially like here in Africa, needs to realize that families are important, and children are going to be raised by families.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Felix.
Hello.
Yes, your name?
Good evening. Church Ambrose Mukono is my name. Mine is just a brief question. Don't we think that shouldn't we think, if at all, if we are to appoint, having to have an appointing, the accusing finger to the police, that they are quite selective in the way of deployment, because when they are deploying where there is political activity, you will see them in the numbers. But when it comes to a way of deploying as to how they are going to cope up with those native drug dealers and what have you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Bukenya. Let's get back to the studio. Mr. Kayiima.
Many of them are raising serious issues, and Church Ambrose asks, why do we deploy more numbers where there are political activity? Political activity is about real emotions and sentiments. Normally they have motives that we question across the board. At a political rally, you see people clapping, and when you ask them why, they actually don't know.
They would have forgotten.
So in a wink of an eye, anything can happen. So that's why we are there, for your safety and for your security. So do not doubt us. I liked Mr. Chabazinga when he said he disagreed with Mr. Sewanyana. I also did, but I didn't tell him. The other thing I disagreed with him is this: our activists, human rights activists, many times look at rights and they forget responsibilities.
Yes.
And they come when there is a problem. Actually, can't we address these issues before we get into a bigger problem? For example, he says political activists sometimes have a question, they want to address their plight, but there are mechanisms of how we should do this. Clear mechanisms. We didn't set the terms. Actually, this time we had an opportunity to give our thinking when the Public Order Management Bill was taken to Parliament, and we suggested our ways. If they are approved by Parliament, well and good. If they are not, that's it. But there are procedures, clear procedures. Why don't we follow them? This is something that we question, and we forget very easily that this is our country. At the end of the day, how will you live? You leave the stage as a politician, as a policeman, as a journalist. How would you have left it Did you make a positive contribution, or you raised the chaos, you gained from it, and there you are? That's very unfortunate. As a country, I think we should refuse to accept mediocrity at all levels. We should refuse to be guided into chaos by whoever should do that, because at the end of the day, you will be held personally accountable by the law, but also the posterity. They will remember you as a bad guy, though you thought in the short run, oh, I gained politically. Yes, you did, but where did you leave this country? That is something pertinent that we need to ask. And you heard what Rimkav was saying, Richard from London, that even the police there, certainly I didn't know, is also getting problems of the funding. Yes. Even here we have those issues.
So here we are very, very well equipped. The trucks we see them.
We are growing.
When we need tear gas, it comes just in time.
But many times when we go to Parliament to defend our budgets, the honourable members will always question.
We even have borders these days for the police.
Yeah, to make sure that we reach members of the public. Just this afternoon, I'm from a village in Mukono where they have land issues, and I was listening to them, and they are raising pertinent issues. Many times when you blend well with them, you learn more and you address these issues, so it doesn't spark off into a problem that we won't contain. Yes. This is what I ask of everybody in their capacity as public servants, as responsible citizens of this country. We must act out what we believe and really firmly stick to that, but within the confines of the law. We must never forget that. If we do, we'll be called to order, and who will do that? The police will do that firmly and decisively.
All right, so let's go a little bit deeper on the family values. What would you tell our legislators when they begin to say you can't discipline a child?
Many times the context changes. Many times we ask, on whose behalf did you speak? And this is maybe our problem. I find very many NGOs, with due respect, championing causes that are not commensurate with our situation in this country. So we must also,
in Africa?
Yes, we must also check that. The situation in Africa, the situation in Uganda is a little different. We live with the elderly, we live with our children. We must cultivate a culture of living with these and being the best examples. When you become a member of parliament, you cease to blame me. I'm not a member of parliament, and I'm not accusing them. But many times you cease to blend with everybody.
Because you go to Kampala Club and so on.
Yes, you go to Kampala Club, and your children cease to be children. Parents, I would want to ask them, leave your children be children.
What do you mean they cease to be children? Exactly, how do you mean?
They are restricted, they don't travel in taxis, they plait their hair, they have these expensive mobile phones.
Right.
Tomorrow if you die and they have to go to the village and mop the kraal, the cow dung with their baby, maybe they would refuse to do that.
Right.
And they won't live a life. Leave them be children, but monitor them, be with them, be the good example you are. But if they see you on TV every day with this comedy,
yes,
really, what are they picking? Today, many children will know some names in this country, and for what reasons? For the wrong reasons.
Right.
And that's unfortunate. So we must go back to make laws that are in touch with the reality, to leave the legacy that we would want our children and our posterity to live, to have a little more time. But that's also question. That's hard. I would love to live with my family, to have more time with my family than I do.
Duty calls.
But then duty calls.
All right. Let's talk about. You're saying basically children should also work in the home. It's not child labor.
We have a whole department of child protection unit, and we try to champion this. Children must work. Children must be children. They must work. But in many cases, especially the affluent families, they don't work.
When the fork falls down, they shout the house girl.
The house girl must come and do that.
And pick it up.
And that's unfortunate. They don't know how to clean houses, to wash their own clothes. I mean, if I have a maid at home, and my children are still young. If they grow up,
they'll have to do something.
They would get to have holidays also, and I paid. They would see me respecting that, and they will learn it. But what do we do with our maids? We don't respect them.
True.
Because we think they are our servants, we pay them, and the children will pick on that, and they are going to be worse than you because you don't even have a personal touch with your children. We subject them to all these forces of nature. Look at them when they come from school every day. I feel they are not safe.
Right.
Look at them on borders every morning. Look at them in the morning at 6 waving down vehicles.
Right.
That threatens me.
It gets into their minds. And of course, you mentioned the issue of the house help at home. Most of them are grown-ups. When they shout at a housemate, they're literally shouting at everybody in that age group. When they go out, they'll find no problem shouting at an aunt or somebody else.
And this is what I have seen and Rio. When we shout at the housemaids, they won't shout back because we have the power, we pay them. They'll wait and you'll transfer the malice to your own children.
Right.
And you won't know.
Right, and of course, one of the final as we wind up, one of my most favorite pictures was a picture of one of the Prince boys in Britain cleaning the toilet in the bathroom. He was cleaning, just below the toilet pan. I lost that picture, but it was a picture that kept an enduring memory in my mind. But of course, the people you're describing who don't want their children to work are the so-called nouveau-riche. They've seen wealth for the first time. They think that's how
we need to rethink, really.
We have to go. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Emilliano Kayiima, political commissar in charge of Kampala Metropolitan Police, also spokesman for the Lands Police Protection Unit, LPP. Thank you very much for coming to Spectrum, sir.
I'm greatly honored to be here tonight.
Online, we also had Mr. Livingstone Sewanyana, Executive Director of the Foundation for Human Rights Initiative. We lost him in the second part. We had wanted him to answer the issue of how we limit children's drinking hours. We had wanted him to answer. A question came in from Chabazinga on that point. He couldn't answer it because he had gone. We also had at the beginning Mr. Richard Mulindwa Kavuma, a Ugandan journalist working with the Observer newspaper, right now doing his master's at the University of London. Thank you for tuning in, very good listeners. I've been your host, Edmond Chisto. Spectrum will be back tomorrow, but right now you can hear the news in English. Do stay tuned.
Let's talk about the home of your dreams and how you plan to finance it. Let's discuss money, location, and time frames.